Morning, Year 7. Happy Wednesday. We all start as we always do with five senses. So, five things you can see, four things you can feel, three things you can hear, two you can smell, one you can taste. I'll give you just 10 seconds to have a go at that. Okay, so theme of the week is tolerance. Tolerance is a really interesting topic, I think. It's one of Britain's sort of key values, and it's something I think that we do in abundance at Chertsey High, but it's not maybe not so prevalent out in the wider world. So as we always do, I'll give you two definitions, and then some words you might want to use instead. So the ability or willingness to tolerate the existence of opinions or behaviour that one dislikes or disagrees with, or understandings it's an understanding that we don't all share the same beliefs and values, respecting the values, ideas, and beliefs of others whilst not imposing our own. I think that's a really nice definition, actually, because I think it shows what tolerance is all about, is understanding that there are different people out there to you, and they might have different beliefs and different ways of doing things, but that's okay. And then you could use some synonyms here: patience, resilience, resistance, toughness, strength. Um, so let's get started. So when I was thinking about tolerance, several people came to mind. This is a guy called Bono. He is the lead singer of a really famous band called U2, and he's one of my personal favourites, actually. You can see here that he's wearing a bandana that says coexist, and it's spelt out using the Islamic, Jewish, and Christian symbols, which I think is really important because he's suggesting that, and we'll talk more about this next year in our actually, that these three religions, they're all very similar and they're all different, but they're the same at the same time. So he's saying that we need to respect them, or Christians need to respect all of those others, and vice versa. And you can also see that he's wearing it over his eyes, symbolising the fact that his tolerance is not based on how people look; it's based on who they are, um, and what they believe in. The second person that I think that I thought of is Pope Francis. So Pope Francis is again a really important person to me, actually, as head of the Catholic Church. He sat down with the Grand Imam and signed a historic declaration of fraternity, calling for peace between nations, religions, and races. And he did this in front of an audience of Christian, Islamic, and Jewish leaders, which I think is so important because he's saying, listen, we are all different, but I tolerate you, I accept you. I don't necessarily agree with you, but I accept you for who you are, and we have to work together to achieve peace and prosperity. So I think he's a really cool example of someone who's doing that and someone who is trying to be tolerant. This guy in the middle is Colin Kaepernick. He took a knee to try and fight for tolerance in the USA for black people, and our very own Emily Pankhurst fought for the acceptance and advancement of women in the UK. So these are four people. There's loads of people that I could go and talk about, and I'm sure that you guys have all got examples of this that you could give yourself. But these four people were the four that sort of stuck out to me, I should say, when we were talking about tolerance. They've all done amazing things, and they all accept other people for who they are, and all they're asking is people to be accepted as well for who they are. So when I think about tolerance, I don't just think about people. I also think what Christ would tell me, and what my faith would tell me. And I always think about this story, the parable of the Good Samaritan. It's a really famous story. I think we looked at it earlier this year. But it's essentially a Jewish man is traveling, and he gets beaten up, and he gets robbed, and he gets essentially left for dead. And people that he would probably associate with and say he has lots in common with walked past him, um, just ignoring him, crossing the road, pretending it wasn't their problem. And then a Samaritan came across him. Now, Samaritans and Jewish people at that time did not necessarily get on. There was often violence between them, there was often arguments, and fundamentally, they were just opposed. Now, what's really important about this story is that the Samaritan picked up the Jewish person, took him to an inn, and paid for his healthcare. So when we talk about tolerance, it's about loving people for who they are, loving them just because they are a human being. Um, this Jewish person was left for dead, and the Samaritan said, he put that all to one side and accepted this Jewish person for who they were, and did the right thing and did the decent thing. And this leads me to think about what's happening in London at the minute and places across the world. The whole point of that story is to love your neighbour as yourself, and I think that's all about tolerance. You would not want to be, um, you would not want someone attacking you for who you are. You would not want someone to um, laugh or ridicule your beliefs. You would not want someone to undermine who you are as a human person. And I think this Bible references, and I think the story, and I think the pictures on both the left and right are quite striking about that. Tolerance is all about loving your neighbour as you love yourself. It's all about looking after people as you would want to be looked after. So when we talk about tolerance, I think it's really important to also talk about the opposite, intolerance, and where that comes from and what's that all about. So I think intolerance comes from a lack of knowledge or education about the person's um, history or their background. And what I think is really important is for you guys to, if there is someone that you're not quite sure about or someone that you don't quite understand, um, or they could be a person who lives down your road, a person who's from another country, whatever. If you don't understand them, if you're not sure, it's really important to try and educate yourself. So how can you educate yourself about people? Listen to them, listen to their stories, listen to their experiences, really listen as well. Don't just be like, uh-huh. Really listen to what they're saying. What are they telling you about themselves? What are they letting you know about them and their experience? Talk. Um, it's important for you to express yourself, and it's important for you to express your history, your background, your culture to other people. When you're having that dialogue, you'll probably be surprised to see how much you can actually learn about someone else. Read. Um, when I say read, I don't just mean things that you read on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Go and read parts of people's history. Go and read about why people have done this, why people have done that, or why did they do this. Go and do some extra research on them. Obviously, you have to make sure that what you're reading is sensible, appropriate, and not written in any sort of biased kind of way. And it's true to who you're reading about. It's true to the culture or the people or the person that you're reading about. Watch. There's loads of stuff on YouTube um, and TV, and as bad as they can be, Facebook and Instagram. There's loads of different stories that you can watch, particularly with this George Floyd um, situation. There are loads of different stories that you can watch about where people have suffered similar sort of fates to George Floyd. So do go and watch and engage with some of those materials out there and reflect. I think it's really important for you to think about, and I'll talk more about this in a minute, to reflect on any intolerances that you might have and why you might have them. Um, it's also important to reflect on the fact that you might not have a full understanding of the situation or what someone's gone through that day. Okay, so I'll just quickly run through these. So, how to build tolerance in yourself. Try to emphasize, try to put yourself in someone else's shoes, try to put yourself in someone else's situation and their history, what they've been through and what they've not been through, shall we say, to try to empathize with people. If you're not sure about someone, if you're not sure why someone has done something, why someone's been angry at you, or why someone has done this, there really is no problem in asking for an explanation. If you meet someone from a different culture, this is the whole point of our research, the whole point of teach really is to ask them, why do you do that? Where does that idea come from? It's not an insult, it's not offensive. You're, in fact, it's very opposite. You're trying to learn more about this person. Ask the question, ask for an explanation. Look for common ground between people. Now, I can guarantee you that in your class there is probably someone that you don't necessarily know or someone that you don't necessarily like. And that's fine. No one is expected to get on with everyone. But if you get on with say, but if you look for the common ground, if you look for what you share and have similar beliefs in, you can start to build a relationship with them and become more tolerant to that person. However, it's also really important to value yes, it might be great if you suddenly find out that you share a hobby with someone and share a belief with someone. It's also really important to value the fact that someone is different. I might have different opinions, it might have different views. I often think about how boring it would be if everyone was just like me, or how boring it would be for you if everyone was just like you. be no variety, there'd be no diversity. It would be a very plain, boring existence. So really value those creative. Use statements like I or we, particularly when you're talking about yourself. Don't say you've done that, that was this, that, or the other. Talk about I. This is what I think. What do you, you know, this is what I believe in. And when we're using, particularly the language, the use of the word we, when we're at school, we are part of the community. So try to group yourself with each other. Use the language. Well, I was just referring to this. Analyze any of your all about. You might have stereotypical views of people in your class, in your school, in your year, whatever. Why do you have those ideas? Where have you picked them up from? You don't know. How can you base yourself? How can you base anything? But analyze intolerance. Where have you picked them up from? Why is that? What do you think? Is that actually true? That's I think is a really good idea. So we're getting close to the end. These come from Mrs. Mack and Friday classic stuff. It's really important for you to have a read of them as well. So how can you show tolerance on this week? And then where in your life do you demonstrate it? Okay, so last thing for me, guys, just for you notices, tutor sessions will start to happen just like normal lessons, and they'll be built into your timetable. Initially, it will happen twice a week, and there'll be some sort of activities for you to get on with, or some sort of videos to watch or something. It'll be like a normal, it'll be as much as possible a normal tutor session. Your tutor will give you more information about when that will happen. Um, Secondly, remember that teachers can see if you've looked at the work on Show My Homework. Now, we are working to 3 hours a day. You've got your 3 lessons a day. Everything is placed on Show My Homework the day before you need to look at it. There's no real excuse. If you've got Show My Homework, you need to be opening it and you need to be at least engaging with it. Now, if you're working for more than an hour and you're finding it really stressful and whatever, you need, you can manage that yourself and you can say, right, I need to take a break, I need to do this. But you need to be going on to Show My Homework and engaging as much as possible. And that's the phrase I'm going to stick with, as much as possible with the work. Now, that's obviously not an excuse for you to sit there and if you don't get it, do speak to someone, do ask your teacher, do email your teacher, do a drop in or text a friend or whatever. You need to be engaging with the work as much as possible. And we've only got about 5 weeks left, 5 weeks on Monday. Keep working hard as possible. I know it's really tough. It sort of links back into that resilience last week. Keep digging deep, guys. 5 weeks to go. We're nearly there. Take care, guys. Lots of love. See you soon. All the best. Bye.